Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first in a series of webinars that the Black Isle Group, myself, Jeremy Campbell, are going to be putting on. The first one is entitled, Are You Applying What You've Learned? Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first... Oh, sorry, excuse me, I've just got a bit of a circle going around here, so let me just turn this off. Excuse me. The first one is entitled... All right, sorry about that. Slight technical hitch, but we'll get going. Thank you, first of all, for giving up your valuable time. I know how busy everybody is. We're going to run the webinar for probably about 30 minutes today, and in which we're going to ask the big question, really, which is, does learning and development work? Is it working for us? Are we getting the results that we're looking for in developing our people? And I think, spoiler alert, in terms of the webinar, my view is, and certainly the view of Black Isle, is it definitely is working if, and the big if is, are we applying what we've learned into the workforce? So what tends to happen is we send people along to brilliant webinars, brilliant workshops, fantastic courses. But if you're like me, I love a course. I love to be developed. I've always been someone that's been huge advocate of the development of people, but also love my own self-development. But behind me on my shelf is obviously a whole array of books, but here is a whole list of different workshops and different courses. I've been enormously fortunate to be sent or I've put my hand up to go along and work with some of the best trainers, the best coaches in the world, actually, literally all across the world. But like me, I'm not sure if everyone is the same, but at the end of the course, at the end of most workshops, there is a moment where the facilitator will ask that inevitable question, which is, so I hope you've enjoyed the last day, 2 days of training. And then they get out a piece of paper and it looks something like this. And the piece of paper says on it, things that I'm going to do differently on Monday. And sadly, if you're anything like me, who is a huge supporter of development, those folders behind me still haven't always been implemented. In fact, I'm not sure I've implemented half of the things that I've learned. Certainly with the books that I've read, if you were to put into practice everything that I've read, certainly over the last 20 or 30 years, then I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be writing more books myself. But on a serious note, why is it that it's so difficult to put that into action? And maybe we can just get going with a bit of interaction from everybody on the call. What is the one skill, the one thing that you've either tried to put into place but failed? It could be maybe a New Year's resolution that you decided that you're going to learn to play an instrument, learn a language, do something different, get fit, whatever it is. But in the workplace, what development challenges that you've had when you've gone along to a brilliant workshop, but I've actually failed to put that into practice? So I'll just wait for a few answers, see if there's any answers coming through from anyone as I speak. And then what we'll do is throughout the webinar today, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a 3-pillared attack, the way that we believe at Black Isle that you apply what you've learned. And I'll give you the 3 main areas in order to be able to do that. So I don't know, I'm just looking for comments or any comments coming through now. Yeah, I had to go to workshop recently, had really great content, but I'm finding it's hard to put it into practice. This is something that we see quite a lot. And it's not just learning and development. It's time management and seeing here as well, trying to put that into practice. Not so much the content, it's actually how do you apply it. Was with a client only this morning. We were talking about a big change program that we're going to be delivering across the world for them, which again, they're talking about how do we incrementally, how do we put this change program into place? Whilst I'm sure we'll do a brilliant job of the workshops and talking about change and what that means to people, it's how do you actually put that into place? Current job takes over, and that's another huge challenge that we have, which is the day-to-day gets in the way. It's not through the want of putting it into place, it's just, do we have the processes to do that? So I guess the question is, and I'll just go on to a couple of slides. I'm going to share a couple of slides with you, but I'm not going to be bombarding you, don't worry. So is it a waste of time? Is it a waste of energy? Is it a waste of money, learning development? Or is there actually a way that we can embed the learning or apply what we're actually learning? And the three kind of pillars that we're going to talk about are content. So is the content correct? Is it right? What are you currently enjoying in terms of content? Are you able to then turn that theory into practice? And then what's the support that you're being given in order to be able to turn the theory into practice? Because none of this stuff is particularly easy. So content is, there's some amazing providers out there. There's some not so very good ones as well, but there's some amazing providers out there who are delivering some incredible courses. Anything from llama whispering to walking up Ben Nevis backwards, through to the 70 slides in a day folk who bombard us with content, through to the very slick and beautiful people that we see on some of these online portals, which are beautifully shot. But the stats will tell you that the online portals, whilst there's amazing content, the actual application of the content is actually very low, and the utilization figures are normally around anything between 2 and 5% of a population. So that's very low in comparison to what organizations are paying. So it's not the content that's necessarily the challenge. And then the second thing that we'll also be actually taking more in the webinars going forward is what content, what should we be developing our people on? And there's a really good report, Future of Work by the World Economic Forum, that talks about meta skills and the meta skills required for the future of work. And what that really means is the human skills, if you like. What are we being taught on? And the human skills in relation to AI. And if none of us think AI is actually coming, then we're kidding ourselves, because it's here, and it's going to get even more prevalent within the workplace. But of course, there's going to always be a need for human skills. So what are the meta skills? We'll run a series of 8 workshops around the meta skills. We'll do some training on each one of those meta skills. But the human skills are things like EQ, things like presentational skills, things that actually people struggle. There are struggles within the workplace, and they can't be replicated necessarily by AI implicitly, especially when there's human nuances. So, and able to turn the theory into practice. Well, what does this look like? If we took an example of somebody, an executive who was sent along to, say, a presentational skills training workshop, and they come away from it, it's been a fantastic workshop. They come back into the workplace, and as one of the notes says here, current job takes over. They sit down to the desk, they got 400 emails to put into to reply to. Their bosses give them some jip about a customer complaint which they've got to jump on. And of course, you've got the cynical team who are going, well, just give her until the end of the week, and then she'll stop trying to be a leader. So these things are a challenge for us coming away from a course. And then lastly is, how are we supported? What we know that is that we learn by actually trying and failing. So the challenge is how do we put something into place that when we do fail, because we will, then there's somebody there to support, coach, and help us. So what does the stats say about learning development? Do they say, are they good in terms of what's going on out there? But the stats are not actually very pretty. So 53 billion pounds is spent last year on learning development or training within the workplace. It's not necessarily just soft skills training, but skills training in the workplace. Yeah, Harvard Business Review will say that there's only 12% of employees actually put the new skill in the role. So they actually use the new skill. So that's a whopping 47 billion pounds potentially that's not got a return on investment. Now, I know these numbers could be challenged in terms of the 47 billion, but ultimately what we're trying to drive at is, what is the return on investment for development? And often what happens and what we see working with our clients is, what they want to know is, what are you going to be delivering at the end of this? So we'll pay you to develop our people, but what's the return by the end of it? And the stats are not great. And one of the reasons, it's not the only reason, one of the reasons is that there's something around, you either use it or you lose it. And this is a sort of continuing line where you're starting off lectures, only 5% of basically retention, reading 10%, audio visuals, that it goes back to our folk on the online portals, demos, discussions. But right at the top end, you've got practical by doing. So if any people on the webinar who anybody on the webinar who has tried to teach their kids to ride a bike, that's exactly what we do. Is we it's a practical application. You wouldn't give them 5 slides of how to ride the bike. You'd say, jump on the bike, have a go, inevitably fall off, have a go, inevitably fall off. And that's a series of practical doing immediately. But the one most important thing coming out of retention of knowledge is the immediate action, the immediate use of it. So if we go back to maybe a presentation skills workshop, a keynote speakers workshop, we try to get people to put it into action immediately. So during our workshops, we make them very much part of an experience, and we ask people to take themselves out of their comfort zones, obviously in a very supportive manner. But it's important to get people to do the skill immediately rather than wait until afterwards. So immediate use. And then the last, actually, there's another one which is not on here, which is actually it's nearer 95%. If you really want to embed learning, then teach it to someone else. Hence why trainers and facilitators often are very much work in progress. But we teaching things are actually learning it ourselves. And then the last thing is a hero of mine, this guy here, and his name is Herman Ebbinghaus. And Herman is a guy he's a 19th century psychologist, and Herman is best known for something that gets used quite a lot, but actually sometimes is not referred to correctly, and it's called the Ebbinghaus 7-day forgetting curve. And basically it states that after 7 days, we basically lose 75% of everything that we've learned. So if you think about it, this time next week, if you don't put anything into action straight after this call, I will literally be a distant memory. I'm hoping that it won't be a distant memory after 2 hours after this call, but the stats are actually stacked against us. And if you think about it, we've got retention challenge in terms of, are we putting it into action? We've got the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. And the way that we actually learn is we try, we fail, we try, we fail, we try, we fail. That's actually how we tend to learn and actually put things into practice. So the odds are actually stacked against us. Plus also, if you throw in that we have on average something in the region of 60,000 thoughts a day, which is bonkers if you think about it. So we've got 60,000 thoughts a day. We've got a day job to do. We've got lots of other things going on in our lives. Plus also we're going to forget everything that we've learned within 7 days. It's hardly surprising that we all struggle to apply what we've learned. But this is the three-pronged attack which I'm going to just share with you. And whilst, of course, we'd love everybody on the webinar to come and work with Black Isle, you don't have to, of course, and you could apply learning by using these three main pillars of retention of knowledge and putting knowledge actually into action. And the first one is experiential skills workshops. We spend a lot of time in getting people to do practical application of the skill rather than giving them 60 slides and a host of amazing models and theories. We been at this for sort of 22, 23 years, and we find that the best way for people to learn is actually do. So whatever it is, if you're learning to play the guitar, if I've got a note here about learning Spanish, a great way to learn Spanish, of course, is using an audio, repeating the words. But of course, it's the consistency of the learning that actually gets the result, which really moves along to the third circle, which is real world practice. So what's important is it's not, as we all do, we kind of skip out of a workshop, can't wait to put it into action, give ourselves huge, great big list of things to do, but everything else then gets in the way. But real world practice is about taking small, incremental actions every day. We call them everyday actions. And it's the consistency of those actions that delivers the result. It's not the one big action that you take, it's the consistency of the small actions. So let's go back to, I want to be a better keynote speaker. Then what we would do is we would help people in the skill of becoming a better keynote speaker with a view of, say, the delivery of that keynote to, say, 400 or 500 people in maybe 2 months' time, and would encourage people then to take an action every single day in order to become better at being a keynote speaker. So that could be, I don't know, an action of pause, which is my challenge when I'm presenting, in between what you say to emphasize the point. So what we would do is we'd set up a nudge, we call it, which is a notification to remind you to pause between what you say on every conversation you're having today. So you're practicing your skill, you're honing your skill. And then what we would do with whatever the subject or the workshop, and again, this can be used quite easily on a spreadsheet. It could be used anywhere else. Of course, we'd love you to use our technology, but you could apply whatever the system is. James Clear, in his brilliant book, Atomic Habits, talks about we don't rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems. And this is all about the system. What system do you have in place to embed your learning, your goal, the goal of being a better keynote speaker? So the system is then put into place. And then the last part, which is really, really important, is what's the coaching support that you're going to get? And again, within our app, and I'll show you just a screenshot in a minute, in our app, we have a coach chat. The idea behind that is we encourage people to practice. But obviously, when things are not going as well as they could do, what we rely upon is motivation. And motivation runs out really quickly. Motivation, think New Year's resolutions, 80% of all New Year's resolutions run out by, or fail, should I say, by the end of February. So how's your New Year's resolution going? It's normally pretty tough because we rely on motivation. When that wanes, we need support. That's why we go and see a PT. It's not because we don't know what to do in the gym. It's because we want to hold somebody, we want ourselves to be held accountable for what it is that we're trying to achieve, the goal that we're going after. So practice is absolutely critical. And again, what tends to happen in practice, if you think about it, and in sports situation, it's not the skill that we rely upon in the moment, it's the practice that we have put in order to deliver. And again, if you go back to your keynote speaker, when you're standing in front of 400 people, you don't rely on the skill that you've been taught. What you rely upon is we fall to the level of the practice that we have basically partaked in over the course of running up to the keynote. So workshop content, whatever that looks like, make it actionable, make it experiential, real world practice, put it into practice, small chunks, often everyday actions. It's the consistency of the actions that gets the result, and then get a coach, get somebody to basically support you. And this is basically the proposition that we deliver for our clients, which obviously has brilliant results. So this is just what our tech looks like, the Nudge platform. We have the learning resources. This is just the resources that we house within the app. We then have a success tracker. And this is the Nudge application. I mean, it's actually even designed that you don't even have to go into the app. You get a notification, you press on it, and it says that you've done your action for the day. You track how well you're doing, so you've got a whole kind of gamification. But more importantly, the thing that our clients love is it's got access to coaches. And when things are not going well and things haven't gone as well as we'd hoped they had, which is what happens in real life, we can then reach out to a coach. And then lastly, we ask everyone to reflect on how well things are going for their week. So what's gone well, what's not gone well, what can we do to help? Because that's how it works. It works in we try, we fail, we try, we fail, we try, we fail. And whilst you fail, what you need is the support. So what would that look like? I'm trying to improve my presentational skills, but I can't improve my presentational skills. I've tried to do is I've put this into place. I'm filming myself for 10 minutes every single day. It doesn't seem to be getting better. The coach will come on and say, well, maybe try this. And what we use is often the facilitators who've actually delivered the work, the workshops. Maybe try this, maybe try that. And then if worst case scenario, we're still not really getting anywhere on the coach chat, it's not AI, it's real people. We may then go on a call with somebody just to try to see how they're getting on. And then lastly, with the reflections, it's really your own reflections. How am I really doing with this thing? Am I getting better at this? Is it getting worse? What's going on? It's ultimately about you and your journey of learning. So does learning and development work? Well, the short answer to that, as far as I'm concerned, is it absolutely does. But it only works if you apply what has actually been delivered. Otherwise, frankly, it's just a nice thing to go to. It's a afternoon out, it's a day out, it's a bit of fun. I've been entertained by a supplier. But what I'm really interested in is the development of people. We're passionate at Black Isle about the development of people. Anyone who knows me has joined the webinar knows that. And what I'm more interested in is what is the business impact? It's not just about getting people to feel good about themselves. It's about the development of people with business impact that follows. So that's all I have to say for today. I'll be, if there's any questions coming in, I'm just waiting to see if there's any questions I can answer. If not, we will be sending out links to the recording of this if you would like to watch it again. And we'll be inviting you definitely to the upcoming webinars that we're delivering on the future of work. So I can't see any other questions coming in, so I'm going to bid you farewell, and thank you so much for giving up your valuable time this afternoon, and I hope you found the webinar useful. Thanks so much.